Tonight, we want to take you to London first, where UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has promised that the UK's new immigration policy will put people before passports. Presenting his first speech at the 2020 UK-Africa Summit in London, he touted benefits of trade with post-Brexit Britain to a major gathering of African leaders. The Prime Minister said the UK was the ultimate one-stop shop for trade, education and tech.
Informed that this is the very first time that the UK and quite so many African nations have come together for an event of this kind. And when we celebrate all sorts of exciting new beginnings, start of a new year, a new decade, new government here in Britain, it is an event whose time has come, and indeed an event that is long overdue. An event that I regard as the climax of considerable personal exertions. Because during my 2 years as Foreign Secretary, I visited more African nations than any other senior British politician in living memory. Ghana, the Gambia, Libya, Liberia, Uganda, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Somalia, Kenya, Egypt, Ethiopia, where in a fit of brilliance, our excellent ambassador decided that I should challenge Haile Gebrselassie to a running race in Addis Ababa at an altitude of 2,355 meters in fierce sunshine over a distance of about a mile. And I had to pretend to have a heart attack in order to get him to slow down, and what everybody said was a very convincing impersonation of a man having a heart attack. And wherever I went in Africa, I found a lot of interest, I'm proud to say a lot of affection for the UK, even a lot of love.
Well, African leaders have also been addressing the summit. Let's hear from Rwandan President Paul Kagame.
Has become a reality. And that means political will also on the part of the leaders of the continent who came together previously with it was the president of Chad, it was the president of Guinea, Conde, who is on this panel, working with the rest of the continent leaders who put this in place. And this came supporting the effort and the quest for regional integration that we had always sought to achieve. So it has become a reality. And that means also that on our side, we have all along been investing in capacities to be able to trade and to attract investments. In fact, that's how Rwanda, in ease of doing business, the World Bank Index ranks Rwanda among the top countries where there is ease of doing business. We are number 2 in Africa.
So Ghana's President Akufo-Addo is also at the summit there in London. The UK Africa Summit 2020 will bring you more updates from there subsequently. Now, some economic and financial experts have criticized government for setting up a forest committee to, among others, look into the city's persistent poor performance. Last week, the Finance Ministry constituted an emergency FX development committee to offer some solutions to the fall of the city against some major trading currencies. Earlier on the marketplace, economist John Gache said the move amounts to a duplication of the central bank's constitutional mandate.
All the things that have been captured as the term of reference for the committee were the things that they were announcing that they were doing as part of their mandate as enshrined in Article 183 of the 1992 Constitution, in which they are the sole institution that will ensure the promotion and management of currency in Ghana, and that is what they have been doing all this while. What we have sought to do by establishing this committee, especially chaired by the finance minister, and if you also look at it, majority of the people are coming outside the Bank of Ghana, clearly indicates to people who want to be critical that you are indicating to the public that the central bank has failed, when in reality the central bank has not failed. What we have not been able to do in the past is that we've not been able to coordinate our sectoral activities very well to align with the policy direction of the Bank of Ghana. I'm saying this because when you listen to the Agri Minister, he was talking about importation of rice to the tune of about 1 billion Ghana cedis, importation of sugar, importation of poultry products into the country. These are issues that policy implementation should have addressed if we are mindful of the policy implementation guidelines and the directives that the Bank of Ghana has been giving in almost all the reports that it issued, its participation in cabinet in providing guidelines about currency management and revealing things that they have found out from their research to economic management team, etc. So for you to come all of a sudden to form a committee, that is not supposed to be your committee.
Meanwhile, spare parts dealers have welcomed the setting up of the FX Development Committee. They believe the committee's work will complement efforts by government to help address the perennial depreciation of the cedi, especially against the dollar. Sheila Tamaklo was at the Spare Parts Hub in Abossey-Okai and interacted with the chairman of the Spare Parts Dealers Association. There's more in this report.
December 2019, Bloomberg reported that the Ghana cedi had experienced a 13% depreciation and poised for its worst decline since 2015. Although the currency has witnessed some marginal stability in the early days of 2020, these spare parts dealers at Abossey-Okai say the instability of the currency remains a challenge for their business.
Whenever the cedi's strength, goes down against the major foreign currencies, which means you need to, add more money before you can be able to get whatever money that you want to, buy. And when it happens like that, it's a negative. It has a negative, impact on our business. And since no businessman is for the Christmas, we definitely have to, add the cost to the consumer. And when it happens like that, it becomes a big bother, to our business.
It's something that they used to sell at 100 cedis. It's now 200 cedis. When you ask them, they will say that they pay for the dollar has gone up, so therefore it has affected the duties they pay at the port and the rest. So it has really made things really like the prices of things have really gone up, which is really affecting business. So the thing I used to buy from them, let's say at 50 cedis, and I'm selling it for 100 cedis. Now they sell it for me at 100 cedis. Definitely, I can't sell it at 50 cedis. I have to go around 200 or 150.
So for persons here at the Abossey-Okai market, well, some stability between the interaction of the dollar and the cedi will be very much welcome news, as their business of importing spare parts is heavily dependent on a stable currency. Following the setup of the FX committee by government last week, the spare parts dealers say it's welcome news and hope the committee will help address the numerous issues of the cedi, including the activities of the black market. Clement Boateng is the chairman of the spare parts dealers.
The issue of dollarization. We have talked about this dollarization for a very long time, and the government seems to, do nothing about it. The other factor, which goes to affect this issue is about the multinationals, which seeks to, repatriate their whatever profit that they make in this country. They repatriate 100%, back to their home country. And government must, come out with a policy that maybe it's about time some of their profits is, remain here. If they can choose to maybe repatriate 70% out of the country, and then 30% is remain here. Government must also see to address this issue of this black market, because this seems to dictate the rate at which dollar is being sold in Ghana here, and always they come out with speculative rates, and as soon as they come out with this speculative rates, it affects everywhere. So this formation of the committee must seek to address all these issues to solve this problem once and for all.
For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo reporting.
In other news tonight, the Bank of Ghana has reaffirmed its position on the recent arrest of some former chief executives of defunct banks and other financial institutions. According to the central bank, the full reform process involves accountability and other policies to make the sector strong again. Former chief executives of Beige and UT banks were arrested last week for their roles in the collapse of their banks 2 years ago. Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari, said the prosecution process will enhance accountability in the banking sector.
The Bank of Ghana has indicated that the banking sector reforms, which saw the collapse of some banks, is not going to end until the banking sector becomes stronger and more competitive. Apart from the chief executive officers of defunct Beige and UT Bank, who were arrested last week, former directors of collapsed Capital Bank are also facing similar charges at the High Court. Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari, noted that the various prosecutions are aimed at achieving the necessary results in the reforms process.
We have done the reforms, but the reforms cannot just end here. We have to go the full cycle and also to ensure accountability. And as you realize, the accountability process has started, that a few prosecutions are already ongoing. We must remain keenly interested in that to ensure that this process gets to its logical conclusion, so that it will ensure that we don't return to what led to this crisis again. And that, I think, the media has a very crucial role to play in helping to ensure that the full process of the reform, which includes the prosecution, is completed.
He also defended the approach, saying that any other way could result in slowing economic growth.
These reforms have helped restore public confidence in the sector, strengthened financial sector stability and resilience, and promoted ethical banking practices. Gains from these reforms have begun to reflect in key indicators of the industry, including a rebound in credit growth and banks' profitability. The media has been particularly supportive in all our processes in carefully disseminating the central bank's policies and outcomes to the public. And here the emphasis is on carefully, because if you had done it any other way, we would have had crisis. And so this is where your role was very critical.
The central bank says it has made progress in ensuring stability in the banking sector.
Many people are said to have been rendered jobless following the closure of foreign-owned retail shops at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Owners of over 600 shops, particularly Nigerians, were ordered to close down last November for engaging in retail trade.
"23-year-old Hawaii seated not far from a stall, displaying mobile phone accessories including batteries and earphones. Her story was different some months ago when she worked as a shop attendant at one of the Nigerian-owned shops in the Kwame Nkrumah Circle area and earned about 400 cedis a month. With the closure of foreign-owned retail shops, her only source of livelihood has been blocked.
Even though they told them to do the wholesale this thing, and they are doing retail, that's why they locked the shop. But we are pleading with them. They should open it for us to get our job back. We are pleading with them because it's really affecting us seriously. Whether now we have since they have flooded their shop too, it's really affecting us. So we are just pleading with them to open the shop for them.
So now that they've closed their shops, you were working with them, what are you doing now?
We are not doing anything. I know they're just in the house or come around to just when we see some of their customers, we just call them and go where we can get some of the good and give it to them.
Hawa is just one of the numerous people affected by the closure of the shops. The agitations of the Ghanaian retail traders for some months intensified in November, where several Nigerian traders were then asked to shut down until they produce a permit for retail trading. Jobs are not the only things affected. Prices of some electrical gadgets and phone accessories have shot up.
Because of the closure of the shops, the Ghanaians have capitalized on that and they have increased their prices. So if the shops are open, the prices will come down.
They are the ones who supply the goods for us, and now they have flooded their shops. So it's affecting us badly. Even though when it comes to the market to buy goods, you don't get it before, like how you maybe the way you purchase it before. You don't get it like that because now the things have increased. So we are begging them at least.
Despite closure of their shops, Some foreigners, particularly Nigerians, hover around the markets. However, they were unwilling to go on record. They reacted on why their prices are cheaper than the Ghanaian traders. They explained that they do so in order to attract more customers and clear their stock. For now, the shops will remain closed until the owners are able to present their business operating documents to the Ministry of Trade. The shops here, like many other shops in the Kwame Nkrumah circle, have been closed due to the engagement of the owners in retail trading. However, from interactions with people, it turns out that an average of 2 Ghanaians are employed by a Nigerian shop here, meaning that the closure of the Nigerian shops is not only having a toll on the Nigerians, but also on some Ghanaian youth. And they're calling on government to revise its decision of closing down the shops that engage in retail trading. Reporting here from the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, Karen Dodu for Joy Business.
Well, in another development, government says it is considering a compensation package for traders whose goods were locked up at the Nigeria-Benin border due to the closure by Nigerian authorities last year. The border shutdown in September was meant to check smuggling of cheaper goods as well as arms into Nigeria. As a result, many Ghanaian traders were unable to transport their goods across the border, resulting in heavy losses. Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Charles Oredu, says government acknowledges the damage and is taking appropriate measures to provide relief for affected traders. He spoke to Prince Apia in Kumasi.
What is happening? Time I cry, you can't call on a movie. You can't catch no movie day and idea. The Momuska Kakamo did to you and the bigger crumb the better. It's a Yama, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Minister of Trade. Yes, now Moibia or Muhiano, they are warm. Because I said to me, compensate you for some of these losses here.
Government is aware of what happened. When we visited for the first time, we gave the traders some pocket money. Some of the goods have gone bad because they have been there for several months. We need to compensate those who made these losses. It is something the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade Ministry are considering. So those who have encountered the problem, government will see to it if they need compensation or support.
Meanwhile, leaders of the Ghana Union of Traders Association have welcomed the government's proposed intervention for members who lost their investments. Frank Owahene Echampong is Guta Secretary for the Ashanti region.
That is the right thing to consider, taking the fact that when your goods are locked up, you have perishable goods and other stuff which have expiring periods. And for that matter, when these things go bad, the government need to come to those who are affected and then give them compensation to defray their cost. So I think it's a good thing to consider. And I know government, as they have proposed, they will toe the line and they make sure these affected traders who have lost so much capital, being the fact that their goods have locked up for the simple reason that these were member country of ECOWAS, did not give prior notice for their border closure, have to suffer at the blunt of this very thing that they've done. So if the government has come to say or come to engage traders who are very much affected, then I think it's a right thing in the right order. In the way forward, if a member state want to embark on that very thing, they should give a prior notice to the member states so that they will be able to organize themselves and see the way that they will go about their normal business. Because you don't tell me that, or you don't allow me to come to your place, pay off or buy goods that I have to bring back, then I get locked up behind the border. So I think member states should put things in order to make other member countries be aware that this is the time that we want to close our border, so that traders will not, traders will not fall into this very problem.
That story ending our program tonight. Thanks for watching Business Live. There's more news, as always, on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching.